This Hangout on Air is live. All right. Hi, everybody. Starting up a little late this month. Thanks for our one person joining us. But I do know it's Penn State Conference Week, so a bunch of people are traveling. A bunch of people in the Mac community are already at Penn State Conference. It's a conference we usually attend. I'm surprised none of us joined this year. It's my daughter's birthday, so I'm not going. Gotta do the family thing. Next year I'll try to get back. It's always a fun conference. I've spoken at a bunch of years, so it's always fun. A bunch of people are there. I think they're having some fun hackathon or something right now. So hi to everyone at Penn State Conference. And when you see this on the recording. What did we want to talk about this month? We got some hardware bumps. Kaby Lake processors. Apple has gotten increasingly bad about this, or maybe not. Like when they release some new hardware, now we have this Kaby Lake specific build of the OS that we can't roll out anywhere else, and we can't roll the standard one to Kaby Lake. Like we're really waiting for the next version of the operating system to kind of unify everything. But trying to think of how far off that might be, right? What are we waiting for? 10.12.6?
Usually a point release will unify unless it was too close.
Well, I guess 10.12.6 is in seeding right now, so maybe we're not that far off. Maybe this won't be that bad. But
I don't remember the last time it's gone more than 2 point releases. Usually it's just one.
Usually it's just, so I guess we are pretty close. I haven't looked, to be honest. What else did these Kaby Lake machines bring us? A little faster speeds, not more memory. Is that what went into the iMac Pro? Maybe?
Well, nothing's gone into iMac Pro.
Is
iMac Pro has not come out.
It hasn't?
No.
Oh, people have
December.
Oh, okay, but you can pre-order them. Okay. So then no new actual machines with Kaby Lake, just bumps to existing laptops, really.
I think the iMacs went to Kaby Lake as well.
Oh, the existing iMacs
regular
went.
line, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. The 5K iMac's a really nice machine.
I think the graphics card is a little bit better.
Yes, that's true too.
A few other bumps like that. So
That is true.
Is this the new iMac that is upgradable or user upgradable?
No, that's the Pro that we were talking about. That's apparently not out till December. Although, that's a good question. Is the new iMac also upgradable? I don't
No, I think they're all configured to order and that's it.
Okay. I don't remember offhand, but I don't know. Apple seems to be moving in that direction a little bit. They're promising the future Mac Pro will sort of be configurable. The iMac Pro will be able to swap its own memory in. And at the very least, the trash can Mac Pro, you could swap your own memory to it. It wasn't configurable past that, really, but at least you could get your own memory, which, you know, Apple definitely still has a tax on memory, right? Like if you ask Apple to upgrade your machine,
Oh, yeah.
it's like double the price for memory that you can just go, purchase yourself. Someone in Slack is saying, and I presume this is in reference to the iMac, it's sort of upgradable. It has removable RAM and a modular CPU. So
That's the Pro.
that's the Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pro has the modular CPU. So
It's the world's more upgradable than the current one.
yeah, I don't think we're ever going to get back to that with the laptops, though. The laptops, Apple just has this smaller, thinner, lighter mentality, which is kind of cool. I know I appreciate when I travel, right? The smaller, lighter.
And my wife carried a Lenovo Yoga, which is a very small, light thing, and the power receptacle, the AC adapter receptacle on the laptop broke, and I was able to replace it.
Well,
pretty
yes. Yeah, that's nice. I don't know. I can't think of the last time I've needed a repair on my Mac, though. Although I probably will. You know, the Touch Bar machines, and maybe even the non-Touch Bar machines, but I know this form factor, I've heard a lot of people complaining about keys on the keyboard going dead. And I can confirm that. My 13-inch has a dead shift key. Like
I had
the left
Yeah.
shift key just sticks.
I did that, and then it turns out it's just because of the low travel, the smaller pieces of dust.
Whatever it is, it's definitely a problem, not just affecting me.
Yeah, but it turns that's actually easier to fix.
And on this machine,
it's you can pop the keycaps off just like the other ones.
and on this machine, this port went dead. Like it won't charge, no USB. I tried blowing it out and whatnot. It's just dead, which maybe I will need to
in recent previous editions. Just Thunderbolt ports would die, or
I've never had a port just up and die.
wireless Ethernet ports, or
Yeah.
Thunderbolt ports actually.
And now that's a problem because you have to bring the whole machine
Right.
in. So I mean, the self-repair is kind of nice, but anyway, just to get back to this, followed up in Slack and said, nope, it's the 2017 21.5 4K Retina. And he provided some pictures in here, swappable RAM and swappable CPU. So that's pretty cool if they're moving in that direction. I mean, maybe that's a nice line to draw. Like desktop machines feel like they should be upgradable and
Yes.
a little bit more modular. My laptop, maybe not. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I personally have gotten so much more into travel, not just commuting, but traveling. Like I want the smallest, lightest thing, the smallest, lightest pack I can. To that end, I've even stopped bringing my iPad because I find if I have my Mac, what do I need my iPad for? I know different people have different workflows and different ways of working, but for me, if I can do it on my Mac, it's usually easier. So just less gear, less stuff you're taking out of your bag at the airport.
Yeah.
Fewer things to worry about. What else does the new hardware bring us that we care about?
What's the third revision of the MacBook?
And you and I have slightly different opinions on this.
I think different people have different things on the MacBook, whether it's usability and things like that. I talked to one person who had a brand new KB Lake MacBook and just said it was still completely unusable. But I know your experience is different.
I have the previous gen, the non-KB Lake, and yeah, I love it. Okay, first, let's just start out with I am incredibly privileged to have multiple Macs to choose from. If I had to choose only one machine, it probably would not be the 12-inch, right? It's a nice adjunct. But going traveling, it's a fantastic machine. It's like you're carrying nothing. But even in daily use, I've found the MacBook to be okay. Its biggest drawback is the single port for me. That's
It's a big drawback.
It's a big drawback. It's like this port went dead. I don't know what I would do if the port went dead on that besides bring it to Apple.
Well, you wouldn't be able to charge it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what I would do. You'd have to bring it in. But even with the current setup, like it'd be nice, even if they bust together. I don't need high-speed I/O. I don't care. But having two ports on one side or one on one, like just to be able to charge and do anything else, particularly for if you're doing two-factor authentication, like with a YubiKey, that's so frustrating that you have to unplug the charging, plug this thing in, swap it around. Of course, they have adapters, but those are usually big and clunky.
And expensive.
And I don't want to keep that hanging off the machine just in case I need to plug something in. But overall, I like that machine. When I went to MacSysAdmin conference last year, that was the only thing I brought. 12-inch. I ran Keynote off of it. That was really nice. What else? You remembered our agenda.
Well, then we were going to talk about 10.13.
Oh, 10.13. So on one of my home machines, I've been running the betas, and I noticed when I upgraded to beta 3, Little Snitch stopped loading. And it wasn't just the regular kernel extension dialog that says, hey, go click, because I had already done that. It ran in beta 2, This was a message from Little Snitch itself that said, "You cannot load the kernel extension." So I thought, oh, maybe they have an update. And I went to obdev and downloaded the latest version, and that didn't fix it. So I only looked at it this morning, didn't have time to troubleshoot, but someone will fix something. And it'll work again. But I posted something on Twitter. I didn't see anyone confirm that, but maybe a lot of people aren't running Little Snitch. The thing that I think we've been most concerned about has been APFS and the evolution of where that's going before it hits retail. Right now, it's still an option. You don't have to enable it. Mike Bombich, anyone who's seen Mike Bombich had a post on, he's a file systems guy, so it's someone it's good to pay attention to. His advice was steer clear of APFS. It looks like it's an option. It's going to remain an option. So perhaps let other people live on the bleeding edge and run with APFS and report all the bugs. But
which honestly, remembering back to the last file system translation, the HFS to HFS Plus, which was way back in the midst of time.
Exciting.
But that was the same sort of situation. It was like, here's this brand new thing, and then no, maybe this whole OS release don't really play around unless you're crazy. And then after that, it was
this is even a slightly bigger transition.
Yeah, I mean, this is a much more completely different architecture than HFS Plus. Although that was a lot of changes.
Yeah, we filed some bugs against APFS internally, and we found programs sort of behave differently if they're running, or they get different answers from the OS if they're running APFS versus HFS Plus. So in running the beta, I personally haven't really run into anything on APFS, but I'm probably also not stressing the system in a way that other apps are. And in Slack, of course, APFS has been running in the wild on iOS for a while now. Although people with iOS and APFS did run into a few problems with Unicode encoding, and there were some very minor things. And overall, that's been an amazing transition, right? Apple upgraded, I don't know how many iPhones upgraded to iOS 10.3, which enabled APFS. That's pretty incredible. Pretty incredible job to swap out an entire file system underneath everyone running it. So I think they had to be careful with that. And Apple is basically the iOS company now, so they weren't going to go screw up iOS. They weren't going to step on their cash cow for this new file system. So I think it's in pretty good shape, but it seems like there are these edge cases, and I don't know about everybody else, but certainly at Google with 90,000-ish Macs, we tend to find every edge case because people are doing different oddball things, and so I don't know what we're going to do. I don't think we've made a decision, but
I think we're still waiting. You got to see what happens when the seeds get going. Like maybe a lot of these issues go away or alleviated enough where this could be the default. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll have to see, and also see what Apple does and what that means.
And I agree with Jason Kish in Slack, who says, for everyday users, I don't see there being that big of an issue going to APFS.
No, yeah.
Probably true.
I agree with that completely.
The question is now, which applications are going to be sensitive to the change?
I mean, if it's a big deal for everyday users, they've done
doomed.
something horribly wrong. I totally agree with it. It should be seamless for them.
It should be. What applications are going to be sensitive to the change? Well, I think Apple
Adobe applications.
Well, I was just going to say
I don't even know if they are. I'm just guessing.
Well,
based on past experience,
I would guess it's Adobe in particular that forced Apple's hand. Apple initially said APFS was going to ship case sensitive, and they backed off that. The default for APFS is case insensitive, and I have no inside knowledge, but I really suspect that was the Adobe application because that would be a wreck. Adobe applications pretty much understand the Mac file system is case insensitive, and they don't have to worry about it.
Right, and I imagine there's some core file handling routines dating back from 1989.
I love Photoshop, and it's amazing thinking that this application has basically been one code base from classic OS days all the way up through modern Mac OS. I would love to see that code base, man.
I think they'd be like the Necronomicon. You look at it and you go insane.
But that's
they
the
have
thing.
a group of people who've gone insane that still manage
I would
to
love
code,
to
and
know.
Well, no one's allowed to see all of it.
I would love to know if they've been able to sort of clean it up over time, or if it really is this horrific spaghetti.
I expect there's a lot of both. I bet there's, just going by what, my code looks like over time. I've got bits of like, this is the crap I cobbled together the first time I learned Python, and then right next to it, there's bits of like, oh, I'm using all sorts of clever, Pythonic things.
Same thing with like Microsoft Word. I would really love to know how clean that was able to stay over time. Again, that dates back to classic Mac OS. But it still works. As an end user, both Word and Photoshop are like, they're workhorses.
I feel like Word may have gone through enough massive changes that it's probably, I'm sure there's bits laying around. There are enough big changes of Word. Huge, fairly, at least front-end rewrites that have changed that.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, Photoshop is still pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And Office is still.
Yeah, Office is Office. But both of those applications are good examples of, there are competitors that do a better job in many respects, but they've both been around for so long, and they're so entrenched, and there are so many workflows designed around Word or Photoshop and the Adobe applications that just, you can't ignore them. You can't get rid of them. If your end users say, no, I need Photoshop or I need Word, they probably do. I'll say it, I'm personally glad that I never got deep into PowerPoint, and I'm glad Keynote is a good substitute. I love Keynote. I've said probably hundreds of times before, I think that is the best application Apple or anyone probably has ever put out. I love Keynote. And what else? Anything else before we move on to events?
And 1013.
Yeah, 1013. Anything else that's bothering anyone?
Well, I think there's a lot of scary, from a Mac management point of view, there's a lot of scary, hand-wavy, like, omens. Like, very little that's like been stated outright. Very unclear, like, there's direction, and who knows how far they're going to go down that direction before the release and all this stuff. But
I kind of feel like that.
There's some frightening things.
I have that sort of Louis C.K. reaction of like, you're not going to know. You cannot do imaging anymore. Imaging is dead. But maybe. And that's kind of, they've been sort of saying that, but then like ASR is going to support APFS restores, and still build the images, and
well, I think at the very least,
as long as the firmware is upgraded or whatever. So
I think at the very least we're not going to see secure boot in 1013, which means the need for APFS is lessened. And I'm personally not worried about imaging because we'll probably stick with HFS Plus. That's my feeling. I don't know.
Maybe, but I mean, someone asked at WWDC, the file system people, about ASR and APFS, and I said, no, we'll do that. It's just not there right now.
Right.
And not like, why the hell would you even ask that? Block imaging's going away entirely. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. So, like there's this, I don't know if anyone at Apple has actually said imaging is dying in 1013, but they've been sort of like hinting strongly, and also saying, but all this other stuff still works, so don't worry about it. Worry about it, but don't worry about it.
Worry about it, get on the MDM train, but
I know
you're probably not doomed if you're not on the MDM train by the time 1013 ships.
And this just goes back to it's really annoying not to have like timelines.
Roadmaps.
I didn't want to say that word.
Oh, sorry.
But
I agree, but timelines change. Roadmaps
no, I know,
change.
but sure. But like, if you can say our plan is we want to, and I can great. Now it's just like I have heard from other people that kind of the possible thing is maybe this sort of possible craziness. I'm not really sure, right?
Yeah.
And that's really annoying for big changes like this. It's annoying for small changes too, but it's especially annoying for big
It might,
sort of sea change.
right. The fear for me is always that there's going to be this period of time when Apple's going to turn off one thing without turning on the thing that makes it okay.
Right.
Like secure boot, that could make no imaging okay. It's just like you're always going to have this clean image. It's always going to be this pristine image.
You can verify it.
You can verify it.
That's the important bit.
Right. And like there'll be this period where like you can no longer image a machine, but we haven't quite gotten to secure boot yet.
Yeah.
Or we claim we have, but we haven't really. That's the fear for me with Apple.
All right. Questions? What's
What are we gonna do in that?
Well, we can get to that last.
All right.
That's sort of like expendable-ish.
Yes.
What's perturbing your admin world?
I don't know.
News coming down the pike that... No? All right. Well, in that case, if anyone on Slack or in the Hangout wants to ask a question, feel free. Otherwise, events. This week is Penn State, as we already mentioned, Penn State MacAdmin's conference. If you're not there, you're missing it. If you're there, you're probably not watching this, not live at least anyway. And that's always a fun event for anyone on the East Coast. It's nice and close. And then after that, the next event that I can think of after that is Mac Sysadmin. And I was speaking with Tico, who organizes that over in Sweden. And I know he said there were some tickets left. So just putting that out there. If there's anyone still interested in going to that, there are some tickets left. And past that, Mac Tech. I am in the midst of prepping things for Mac Tech and talking to speakers, and that is in November. So I would love input. I would love people to say, yes, I want to speak. Ideas, whatever, throw them at me. So yeah, one question in Slack going back to MDM. Is it confirmed that imaging will require MDM on 10.13? And no. Nothing's confirmed in 10.13, but it seems like Apple wanted to get there. I don't think they were able to. So
well, so also I think it's a little. So they're not saying that imaging will require MDM.
Right.
It's that you won't image machines, but you'll take control of them with MDM instead of which.
Right. It's your management tools or something.
Right. Which only means in a fleet of a manageable size, you totally don't need MDM. You could just.
Well, what's a manageable size? 100 machines?
Yeah. If you have 1 or 2 new machines a week,
yes.
Like you wouldn't need MDM. You could hand install your tools, whatever, with a USB thumb drive.
Yeah, but what happens?
MDM would be the cool way to do it.
I agree, but also I've always felt that enterprise tools, right, quote unquote, whatever that means, are still useful for small deployments, especially if you have. There's a difference between having 100 machines all in one building. Yeah, you can walk around to them, you can get things done. But if you have 3 offices of 30-ish machines each, now that becomes more of a problem, and you want to automate that as much as possible.
Right, but if you have a workflow right now where you're re-imaging machines, having a workflow where you're installing your management agent on them directly using some tool.
Sure.
Like, it doesn't have to be MDM. MDM is just like that's what Apple would like everyone to use. That's what they're putting forward as the tool you would use for that, DEP and MDM. But I don't think that's going to be required for a while.
Right, won't be required. But then what about, like, even with 100 machines, upgrading them? It'd be really nice to automate that instead of having to spend 2 or 3 months, doing a few at a time, walking around.
No, but I'm not saying you don't use Monkey and you don't use Puppet.
Oh, sure.
I'm just saying you don't have to use MDM.
Right.
Like, I know a big fleet that doesn't use MDM.
Yeah, so that is true. If, at Google there are some specific challenges, and I always forget. Jason in Slack says, I believe net install is accessible using the and then in macOS server. Like, I always forget about that. Netboot is one of Apple's recommended solutions here, right? You can Netboot, you can configure machines that way. That makes sense. Yeah, and so for the small shop, imaging is necessary. We don't have the manpower to set up each machine individually. I get that, but yeah, like you were just saying,
Right, I'm saying you could
the
do it as a
idea,
package, you
right?
could go
But the
through-
idea in the future is, not only will you not have to image, you won't be able to image.
Right.
It'll be like your iOS device. You can possibly reset it, but the system partition will be this protected blob that you won't be able to image. You'll be able to get user data back on it. You'll be able to restore. Yeah, you won't be able to image, which is kind of cool. Like, it's something we've been thinking about for a very long time. But
Yeah,
our security
as these
people weren't
things go,
comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, as these things go, I'm constantly like, that's a great idea. I love this, but I need a way to work around it in certain situations, like the Kex
Kernel
thing right
extension
now
thing
with
is
10, 15, 13 seeds. I'm like,
it's a mess.
fantastic. Please let us block unknown kernel extensions.
Yep.
But don't force us to boot every machine, disable SIP, and do something just to get our kernel extensions that we want and trust loaded.
And the flip side to that is, we don't have the manpower to do that with.
Yeah, like their little document on how to do this, and I say this in the weirdest way possible, was it's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's not a solution.
yeah, it was like, yeah, we just use the, put in recovery mode.
So I don't know. It's an interesting future. I can't. It's tough for me to discern whether I'm just being grumpy and set in my ways and resistant to change, or like I should really be excited about all of this.
Well, I mean,
100% sure.
I'm
like-
excited, but I think we'll also work with Apple long enough to know that it's. I think we're worried that they're not going to handle the transition as well as we will. Right?
Sure.
Like secure boot is fantastic. I love the whole idea of secure boot. It's fantastic, but we also need like mechanisms to do things that would then block us from doing.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, if I really want to poke around, I could go get a Linux box and be free to poke around at everything and not worry about it.
It is the year of Linux on the desktop.
Well, Ubuntu is in the Microsoft Windows Store now, so it actually is.
It's in Whole Foods too.
What are the requirements to register with Apple for MDM? One of my clients gave up with the process. It seemed overwhelming. That's a good question that I don't know the answers to, but I have heard similar sentiments.
The business end of it.
The business end of it is a problem, but I think just running an off-the-shelf MDM, like using AirWatch or Jamf or Mobile Iron or something like that, shouldn't be that terrible. But there is something about registering for a certificate for your business and you need the DUNS number or something, right? Am I right or am I wrong?
No, for what, MDM?
For an MDM, like, so you go and you buy AirWatch,
to do like a DEP.
and now you're going to do
DEP,
DEP and MDM.
You need the DUNS number,
Yes,
and you need someone who's able to agree to things for your company to agree to that, agree to some stuff.
Yeah. So someone just posted that in Slack. MDM setup is pretty easy. DPP and DEP take quite a bit of setup. So yeah, that's the thing we're talking about. Where with DEP, you need a push certificate. You need someone from your company that can do those types of things.
I mean, and the thing they announced was, speaking of DEP, the thing they announced with being able to add non-DEP devices to your DEP account for a non-DEP enrolled iOS device.
iOS devices only for now.
To your DEP account for the 30-day opt-out. That's good, because a lot of companies might have, if you buy random things from the corner Apple store because you need one really quick, and then now it's never going to be managed with a DEP. It would be nice to add those ones in if they could finally do that.
Yeah, I think that's
hopefully it's coming.
That's a good move. All right. Questions, comments? Some people are typing in Slack. I'll give them a minute to catch up. Yeah. The other problem while I'm waiting, speaking of MDM, is the whole idea of MDM, or the holy grail of MDM, is you can just create profiles and push them down to clients, and that does all your magic. That does all your management magic. But we know there are still some pretty big holes in profiles that you
Yeah.
can't manage everything in profiles that you traditionally managed with MCX or some other methods. So that's something Apple needs to catch up on a bit.
I think everything you could do with MCX you can do with profiles because you can embed.
Because you can
MCX
embed it,
in
right? But
profiles, but there's a lot of stuff that MCX doesn't do.
oh,
even
sure.
some basic stuff, even like I've mentioned to you several times.
Yeah.
The screensaver timeout.
Yeah.
As just like a dumb example.
Yep.
You can set it for a specific time, but we don't want a specific time. We want no more than a specific time.
Yeah.
So there's no way to do things like that. And also a lot of these things with profiles, you can sort of set them once.
Oh, yeah. And then if the user overrides them, you never get them back.
Or maybe it's so a lot of these things you don't get feedback if things change.
So yeah, the question in Slack is, when we were talking about MDM requirements for imaging with 1013, we were talking about DEP though, yes? And no, kind of. They're separate things. You don't need DEP to do MDM, but it really helps.
Makes it a lot nicer.
It makes it a lot nicer.
It's a much more elegant solution. A much more compelling solution.
Well, people are compelled. They have no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
with DEP, you turn on your machine out of the box, and as soon as it connects to the network, it talks to Apple. Apple says, this is a DEP device.
here's your MDM.
Talk to this MDM server, and it automatically enrolls that MDM server, and then it's setup control out of the box. If you don't have DEP, you run through the setup assistant, then you have to enroll it, and then everything happens. But that's after you've done the setup assistant, whereas the DEP can go before that.
Right. So one kind of funny thing that Apple isn't intentionally, I think, they aren't really clear on is when DEP is actually enforced. And going back to the point you made, that they made this announcement at WDC where you'll be able to enroll iOS devices after the fact, right? So I'm an employee and my manager says, oh, you need this new iPhone, go to the Apple Store and buy it, but just give us the serial number so we can enroll it in DEP. Now I go and I set it up. And the way it currently works with Macs or with iOS, DEP only kicks in at these times that Apple doesn't really specify. And I know our Apple rep told us with the Mac, it's like really kind of only when you reinstall, when the OS activates, or that's these points that are unspecified. So that's interesting how they're going to handle that on the iOS side, because like right now with MDM, with DEP, it kicks in when you reinstall the OS and some other points. So Apple has to re-architect that a little bit, at least in the case where now I give you my serial number and it gets enrolled. Like it needs to get attached to an MDM right then and there.
Yeah.
Which is currently not the case, which is kind of strange.
Well, if you add the unknown device to DEP, you then have to wipe the device to get it to go in. Is that what they said?
I don't think that's what they said for the new thing. So yeah, someone, Jay Sarrett in Slack is kind of confirming DEP hits at activation time for iOS. I'm not sure where it hits for the Mac. Oh, that's right, that's true. And it hits for iOS major version upgrades. But they have to re-architect that a little bit if at some point, at some arbitrary point, I can give my company my serial number and say, yeah, sure, add this into DEP because I need to be managed for whatever reason. Yeah, I'm curious how they're going to handle that on the Mac as well. All right. Questions? Going once. Twice. Sold. All right. Thank you, everybody. We got started a little bit late today. We will endeavor to do better next time. Ed and I had a previous engagement we had to deal with, but thanks. See everyone next month.